they made all the sorority members get in their underwear. Hey guys, it's Alina here, and today I'm going to tell you the truth about sororities. Uncensored, totally as real as possible. So I decided to do this video because it's around that time of the year when sorority recruitment happens, so I thought I would share my past experiences and an uncensored, real view of what sororities are like. This isn't going to be sugar-coated. I'm going to share the pluses and the minuses of my experience. So before anyone gets too upset, let me first say that the entire video is going to be based on my personal experiences, the things I saw, whether it be in my sorority or what I saw among Greek life. Obviously, every school is different. Every Greek life scene is different. So take this for what it is. Starting off, what is a sorority? It's basically a club and you have to pay to be a part of it. So it's kind of like an exclusive club. A lot of people will say that it's basically paying for friends, probably, but the whole point of recruitment is to kind of put you in the right place where the people that you're supposedly paying for them to be your friend, you probably would have been friends with them anyway based on how it happens. So it's not like you can go up to a particular sorority and say, all right, here's the check for my dues. I'm in this sorority. Like, you can't just buy your way in. You have to actually have a mutual selection. So there needs to be something more there than the fact that you're willing to give them money to like be your friend. So I'm not gonna share what my specific sorority is. I'm sure if you guys did enough internet digging, you could probably figure it out. And it's not because I'm ashamed of my sorority or anything like that. I just don't want to incite any crazies out there. Recruitment. So for sororities, they usually call it recruitment now, and fraternities have like Roche. So the way that recruitment worked at my university is that first day you went to, for us it was literally a basketball court by the Greek village, and they split us all up into smaller groups, and we had, I think they call them Roches, I don't know, someone that was basically in charge of that little group, and they were basically unaffiliated Greek members. So for that whole time of recruitment, they weren't a part of any sorority. So it was supposed to be very unbiased. They were just there to kind of give overall general guidance, make sure you got to where you needed to go, answered any questions, like general questions. So on my campus, we only had 5 or 6 sororities. There was a lot more fraternities for whatever reason, but only 5 or 6 sororities. So that first day we went to all of the houses, and you spend, I think, like 30 minutes at each house, and you just meet a few people. Once you're on the other side of it, it's really interesting because when you first come in, you think it's a very natural experience. Like, oh, you're just having a conversation. You just happen to end up in a particular room talking to certain people. But when you're on the other side of it, you realize that it's so strategically planned. It's insane. Like, you think it's your decision to talk to this particular person. No, not your decision. It's been coordinated. So after that first day, basically you have to select only a certain amount that you want to return to. So you kind of rank them in the order that you want to return. So then the sororities will also do the same to you. And if it matches up, like let's say they want you to return and you want to return there, then the next day you'll go to 3 sororities, let's say. So the last night when you have your 2 selections, they call it pref night or preference night. So you kind of get to see a little more of each sorority. You get to see a little smidgen of their ritual, and it's just like a fancier evening. And then after that, you choose your first choice and your second choice in that order, and they do the same for you. Then you have bid day, where you basically go and find out which sorority you matched up with. So ideally, it's supposed to be that it's a mutual selection and all the parties involved are happy. Doesn't always work out that way. I don't know necessarily that I saw this at my school, but I've seen video clips of girls crying because they didn't get the sorority that they wanted. I mean, talk about first world problems, eh? So my advice, if you are planning going to recruitment, is don't stick with houses that you know you don't want to be in. So it is possible to just go to one house on that last night. Obviously, it kind of kills your odds because that means there's a 50% chance that you're going to get into a sorority. But if you know for sure that you don't like the other one that's left, then explain that when you're choosing your selection and just choose one. And a lot of times they'll let you do that if you're 100% sure that you don't want to be in another sorority. Because yeah, you don't want to have to be in that situation. If you're unsure about recruitment in general, it's okay to just go through recruitment and see if it's something that you're interested in. It's very hard to look at Greek life from the outside. I mean, some people do it. Some people look at it and they're like, yes, this is what I want to be a part of. But a lot of times going to recruitment will give you kind of a little taste of what it would be like and give you a better idea and see if it's something that you want to do. So the reason I joined a sorority is probably very different than some people. So I've never been one of those people that always wanted to join a sorority. That's never been on my radar. I'm not really a huge fan of girls in general. They tend to be really catty with me. I mean, they're catty in general, but they've always just been extra terrible to me. So it's not really an enjoyable environment that I would see from the outside. But when I went to my university, I quickly realized that being in a sorority would give me access to opportunities and just experiences that I probably wouldn't encounter on my own. I'm a severe introvert, so I'm not the kind of person that's just gonna like go out into the student union and just randomly introduce myself to people. So that's not gonna happen. Also, my university had 2 bars on campus and both of them were 21 and over. The only times that they opened up the bar for 18 and over was during sorority or fraternity sponsored event. That didn't mean that you were 18 and you were allowed to drink. They wouldn't serve you. Doesn't mean you couldn't get it, but they wouldn't serve you. So let me just make that clear before anyone starts banging down the doors of those bars. So between that and the parties that I knew would happen, the socials as they call them, I realized that the only way or the easiest way that I would be able to go to like more social functions and go out and, you know, party when I wanted to was through joining a sorority. That was my main reason for joining. So when I first went in, I'm not gonna lie, some of the sorority houses just really creeped me out. But the one that I ended up in, I'll never forget the first day. I just ended up having this really real conversation with a senior, she was a senior that year, which was unfortunate because, you know, she was only the first year, but just a true funny conversation. I know we got into this conversation about my bed being lofted and rolling out of the bed, that kind of thing. It was just a funny encounter and it was just so real and genuine, unlike some of the other experiences that I had. So the 2 sororities I ended up with at the end, I was fine with either one of them, and once the decision was made and as I went through that process of pledging and all that, I 100% knew that I had ended up in the right one for me. So trust the process and don't try to force a circle into a square. There's always a reason behind it. Now, the reason may not always be just, you know, you two not clicking. The reason might also be some superficial BS. So, having been on the other side of it and hearing things from my friends, several reasons why people wouldn't get bids. So-and-so dated someone's boyfriend, so-and-so didn't like that person from high school, like just little petty stuff, which that's gonna happen when it comes to girls. That's just how girls are, it's crazy. So I was very happy that I came as an out-of-state student because I can't imagine my high school peers, because they would totally be like,
she's not a girl's girl, what is she doing here? Like, she's always off doing her own thing, being weird.
So I did a Periscope broadcast asking questions for this video, and I got a lot of good questions for this, and I'm just looking down to make sure I answer it. So a lot of people have asked me, how much does it cost to be in a sorority? Now this varies tremendously. So in my university, our dues were due fall and spring, so we had to pay twice. So it varied each time. So basically, there was a budget for a lot of different things, and depending on what was planned for that semester, they just divided that by how many sorority members there were, and it fluctuated sometimes because if people were on study abroad or maybe people transferred, obviously the number of people in the chapter changes. I think the most we ever paid for a semester, as far as I can remember, was $300 and something or $400, which it seems like a lot, but having seen what other people pay in other universities, I'm pretty happy. I'm pretty happy with that number. I can take that. The reason why I know that specifically now is because after my sophomore year, I got chosen for verification with financial aid. So basically, with financial aid, I think 10 to 20% of applications randomly get selected for verification, which basically means you have to fill out more paperwork, which slows down your application process, and by the time they get to you, a lot of money could already be gone. So that's what happened to me in my sophomore year, and most of my financial aid was cut, and I was gonna have to take out, I was an out-of-state student, I was gonna have to take out crazy loans, and at the time I thought I wanted to go to medical school, so I didn't want to be in debt for my undergraduate degree. So that's when I transferred back to Florida because I had free tuition through like Bright Futures. So at the University of Florida, where I transferred to, they had my same sorority, so I was very excited because I could do the similar thing and meet people through there and all of that. But, and this will tie into another point that I have, I reached out and I met with one of the girls, and she gave me a tour of the house. It was very different. The university that I first was at had kind of cookie cutter Greek village where all of the houses were identical. It was kind of like a dorm, but it was like houses. And then at UF, it was like the traditional Greek like mansions. It was insane. So I went there and I had a meal with them. I met them, and I didn't like the vibe. It was weird. It didn't click. So my point with that is not all sororities are created equal. Even if it's the same sorority, it varies from campus to campus. So if you hear a bunch of crap about a particular sorority from your friends, whatever, it might not be the same at the university that you go to. You might end up really liking that group. The other thing that turned me off was their dues were, I believe, $2,500 a semester.
For what?
Oh, you know why? Because they required everyone, even if you didn't live in the house, they required everyone to buy a meal plan from the sorority, like to eat in the sorority house. And I was just thinking, that's dumb, because the people in the house want to have a chef that cooks for them. I have to pay for that? Because I lived on the other side of town. There was no way I was going to be driving over, trying to find parking just to make the most out of this meal. Like, how many meals could I possibly eat there to make up $2,500? That's outrageous, and I'm sure people pay more than that. I just think that's insane. Someone asked what are the requirements for joining. I don't know that there are any specific requirements for joining, but I will say to stay in the sorority, you need to maintain, I believe, a C average. So obviously passing, you can't be on academic probation because that brings down the sorority's GPA and it just doesn't look good on the sorority. While going through recruitment, the best way to end up in the place that you belong is to be yourself. Don't try to be fake. Don't try to be someone else. What I will say is that even if you're not sure about being a sorority, go through recruitment. Going through recruitment taught me so much about networking, because you are meeting so many people, you're introducing yourself, you're kind of giving your little spiel. Ever since then, when I would go to a networking event or any sort of event, I was comfortable doing that. And before then I hadn't been. So, going through recruitment as a potential member and also on the other side, it's really great kind of networking interaction. So the pledging process is, I believe, 8 weeks. 6 to 8 weeks, not entirely sure. I think the max that it's allowed to be is 8 weeks. So it all depends on when the initiation is scheduled for, which is how many weeks. And you have to wear a pin. I'm not sure what happens if you're caught not wearing your pin, just because I'm a rule follower. I don't like to get in trouble, so I followed the rules and I wore my pin. So during the pledge process, you get a big sister So this is basically one of the older girls. Usually if you're a freshman, it's usually a sophomore, but sometimes a senior will get a second little when they're a senior. But basically, this person is supposed to help guide you through the process, and there's kind of like a little scavenger hunt to figure out who your big is. They leave you gifts and they decorate your dorm door. Super fun process. My big was the sweetest girl in our sorority, and I don't know, she was amazing. And it was really sad when I had to transfer, because my decision to transfer happened after the semester had already let out, after sophomore year ended. So I never really got to say goodbye to the people in my sorority, or, you know, anyone really. That's one part that sucked, because I feel like a lot of them might have felt, I don't know what they thought of me leaving so suddenly. Because normally when someone's going to transfer, you know, they kind of give a warning, and there's kind of like a goodbye in one of the last chapter meetings. But yeah, I didn't get that opportunity, unfortunately. And the part that really sucked about transferring is I didn't get to experience a lot of the awesomeness that comes with being in a sorority. A lot of the connections after college, because you stay in touch with those same people, graduating with your letters and all that stuff. Like, I didn't get to do any of that. And, you know, I tried, like I said, when I went to University of Florida, but it just wasn't for me there, which sucks. Someone asked, do they try to embarrass you? No, I didn't have that experience, and I guess this might tie in with hazing. I don't feel like I was hazed in any way. I was never forced to drink. I mean, at the end of the day, nobody can force you to do something that you don't want to do. And anyone that's out there saying, oh my God, I was hazed, like, please. Someone can try to haze you, but you're the one that's there willingly. Unless they've tied you up and you're saying untie me and they don't untie you, that's the only instance that I would say it's full-on hazing. Granted, there were so many rumors circulating about what the sororities supposedly do to their pledges. Like, one popular one on my campus was that they made all the sorority members get in their underwear, and then fraternity members would circle their imperfections with a permanent marker. That didn't happen at all. Yeah, so for me, I did not feel hazed at all. Like I said, I was never forced to drink. I was never forced to do anything crazy. What I will say is that fraternities, for the most part, they have a different process with that. Someone asked on Periscope, is there really a hell week? Yes, there is a hell week. But I wouldn't say, at least from my experience, it wasn't very hellish. So Hell Week is basically that last week before initiation. So a lot of fraternities, sororities have a lot of activities, a lot of things that are required of the pledges. For me, the most hellish part was just fitting in all of that with my schoolwork. Initially, I wanted to go to veterinary school, so I was taking a very heavy course load. It was definitely difficult, but nothing that I would say is hellish about it. The night before initiation, we all had to sleep over the sorority house, and we didn't get a lot of sleep, and there was a lot of silliness, I will say, but nothing I would think is hazing, in my opinion. And then the following day was initiation day, which is really beautiful and just very, very special. I can't talk about specifics of my initiation. It's just a really great day. It makes the whole pledging process worth it. I would say one of the biggest downsides of joining a sorority is that there is a lot of cliquiness, which is gonna happen in any sort of group setting. A lot of times I did feel left out because it was me and I think one other girl that had a really difficult major and was taking very difficult classes. So we couldn't always go to all the parties, and when you don't go to the socials with the fraternities, you miss out on a lot of those experiences, and then a lot of the inside jokes don't make sense to you, so you're kind of just out of the loop. And when you can't go, people stop calling to invite you to go. So that's the only thing that sucked. You know, if you're dead set on going to a professional school or law school or somewhere where you're going to be taking a heavy course load from day one of college, then it might not make sense to join a sorority because you might not be able to get the most out of it. No one was ever mean to me. Everyone was always nice to me. I just didn't feel included all the time, which I understand because I just wasn't able to be in it as much as everyone else. As far as the time commitment, there's usually a chapter meeting which can run, I think ours were usually between an hour and 2 hours. That's once a week and it's required. The only way that you can get out of it is if you have a class, I believe, but that might vary from campus to campus. Additionally, while you're pledging, there's going to be a lot more activities you have to do. I know for us, we were required to do study hours, so we had to do at least 4 hours a week at the library, which I thought was really good. I had to check in and check out. It kind of forced us to get into the library and get some work done. Then there's like philanthropic things that we'll do, and then there's homecoming stuff. We have to decorate a float, we have to be a part of homecoming. So there's just a lot of activities, and as a pledge, a lot of them are required. So that first 8 weeks or whatever is very, very intense and super time consuming. So if you know you're going to be joining a sorority, maybe take a lighter course load that first semester. And really you should be taking a light course load that first semester anyways, because the adjustment to college is tremendous. Yeah, I shouldn't have taken such a heavy semester. And another negative I would say about sororities, not necessarily mine, but just all sororities in general, it's very fake. It's very fake. But I feel like when you get a bunch of girls in a room, there's just so many hormones going on there. It's just, there's a level of fakeness that needs to be there so that people don't kill each other. And that can happen in any girl group, a girls soccer team. It happens when there's girls there. I never lived in the house. I'm not sure that I would have wanted to live in the house just because it's nice to have that distance when you need it. And I think it would have been very difficult for me to manage my course load in that environment. So looking back, would I do it again if I could go back so many years and start college over? I definitely think I would. I would definitely, especially at the University of Connecticut. If I had started at UF, I probably wouldn't have gone through the process just because I already knew people at UF. UF was close enough that I could drive home if I wanted to, and I feel like there was just so much more going on the UF campus because it wasn't in the middle of nowhere like UConn is. Also, I had a car at UF, so it's just different circumstances that made it right for me at UConn. It was nice because you always bumped into a familiar face throughout campus. It made the campus a lot smaller, so that was definitely a good thing. I think that's just about everything that I wanted to talk about when it comes to sororities. So if you guys have any more questions about sororities, just leave me a comment below and I will do my best to respond to all of them. Bottom line, just be yourself and go through the experience, and if it's meant to be, it'll be, and just trust the process because it usually turns out good. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video about sororities. Be sure to give it a big thumbs up if you did, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!